Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk.
Don't let annoying pests bug you. Lick them for 6. Omega Pest Control is the perfect solution. We are experts in termite and pest eradication, specialized mosquito treatments, foundation, residential, commercial, and industrial treatments. Call us day or night, or visit us at our office located at Fieldside Drive, Long Gap, St. Michael. Omega Pest Control. Call 425-5954, 231-6526, or email us at opcl@caribsurf.com.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
Well, we're here for the final show of 2021, and it should be a good one for you. To tell you a bit more, to introduce our first guest, we've got Wayne Holder.
Well, good evening to you, and as a matter of fact, I should say season's greetings to the Anything Cricket Let's Talk family. Of course, as you mentioned, Philip, this is the final edition for 2021. Another challenging and trying year for cricket. We didn't get a domestic season this time around like we did in 2020, but fortunately, the international game has kept us going and has kept us very much occupied, us cricket minds and us big cricket fans. So coming down to the end of the year though, we've had some rather interesting developments in West Indies cricket. Recently, we would have had the 2 test series between a tour to Sri Lanka by West Indies. And then that was followed by an ODI series in Pakistan. Unfortunately, the ODI segment of that tournament never got going because of the emergence of the ugly head once again of the COVID pandemic. But the news really though coming up towards the end of the year has been the non-retention of the selection panel, particularly the head selector, the chief selector, Roger Harper, and his running mate, one would have to call it his man Friday, in Miles Bascom. And you know, tonight we have invited Deighton Smith, former cricket administrator and a former cricketer himself over the years, and who is now a regular on Anything Cricket Let's Talk to discuss this topic and maybe one of 2 other cricket matters. So let's say welcome and good evening. Season's greetings, Deighton.
Thank you, Wayne, and season's greetings to you and Philip. May I convey my best wishes to all of the viewers out there, and I wishing you well in 2022.
Well, yes, Deighton. Let's get the technical matters out of the way first. You know, there's a saying that the West Indies selectors were sacked. It is understood though that the contract for the two selectors, Harper and Bascom, would have expired, I think, somewhere towards the end of October, either the end or the beginning of October. And the West Indies Cricket Board, Cricket West Indies, in its wisdom, had extended the tenure by another 2 months, so as to accommodate those 2 series that I would have mentioned at the top of the show. But now that 2-month period has come to an end, or is about to come to an end, Cricket West Indies have announced that they will not be retaining the services of Harper and Bascom. Is it correct, technically correct, to say that they were sacked?
No, I would not say that they were. If a contract comes to an end, you are not sacked. That's the end. The other part of that contract then has to make a decision as to whether it is in their best interest to renew it. I think in this situation, CWI has made the best decision for West Indies cricket. I don't think that the previous selectors recently covered themselves in glory. I think they made some grave errors, and I think they've done the right thing. However, let me add a word of caution. In the same way that sometimes we tend to look at cricketers as individuals in isolation, which can be a mistake, because I think we have to look at the system within which they operate. I think it is worthwhile tonight for us to have a discussion about the system within which our selectors operate, because changing these selectors will not solve all of our problems. And if we don't look at the system within which they operate, then we're going to be back here another year or two from now with new selectors, as we've done since 2000, and not getting any better results.
Well, a lot of, there was quite a lot of excitement generated. The Cricket West Indies would have had a review panel put into place to look at the whole selection process and that process of electing the persons to go into to go onto the West Indies panel. We know of that group that included Phil Wallace, our own Phil Wallace. There was the Vice President, Dr. Shallow, and there was also Enoch Lewis out of the Leeward out of Antigua, among others. And they came up with a model that suggested that there was to be a lead selector, an assistant to the lead selector, and then the coach and the captain would have had their parts to play. The criteria for selection were also heavily discussed. And there was this excitement that something different was about to happen, something new was about to happen. In the long run, we would have been, I guess the fact that we are at this junction now suggests that all concerned would have been very, very dissatisfied.
Well, Wayne, it's interesting that you should go back there, because I think that's a good starting point. We had a review of the system in 2019. And that is what brought about this selection panel that we recently had with Harper and Bascom. And now, after the fiasco of the World Cup, we had another review. CWI said they wanted to extend the contract for a short period so they could review it. The fact that we had that fiasco and the fact that we're reviewing it again suggests to me that whatever they did 2 years ago did not work. And it is worthwhile, if you will indulge me, I will go back a little bit. After that review was done 2 years ago, the Vice President of the Cricket Board, Dr. Shallow, was interviewed. And let me quote some of what he said. He said, based on data, in an effort to bring a more strategic approach to the building of West Indies representative teams, that's how we will pick teams. So basically he's saying it will be based on data. Good? Mm-hmm. He also went on to say, it is important to have a selection policy where players will have confidence that if they perform, they will be selected. Good? Mm-hmm. And I'll have one more excerpt from that interview where he said, what we are saying now with this system is that it will reward performance. And both selectors, Roger Harper and Miles Bascom, have demonstrated their full understanding of that. So what he's saying here, we will look at data and we will pick teams based on performance. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Well, it sounds so.
However, that's what he said. But coming up to the World Cup, let's talk about data and performance. Chris Gayle averaged about 17 in T20 cricket for 2021, and we picked him. Does the data and the performance suggest that he should have been picked? We picked O'Shane Thomas. He bowled 4 overs in 2021 for 59 runs and 1 wicket. 4 overs, 59 runs, 1 wicket, and we picked him. Does the data suggest that he should play? I've only picked these 2 just to make that point. So clearly, whatever was said at that time is not what was done. You can't tell me that. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was going to suggest though that you would need a comparative analysis to tell me and the viewers that there were others who had performed better. I would imagine that that's where you're going.
Right. Let me say this. It is better, I think, for me to do it this way. Mm-hmm. Are you telling me we cannot find someone who can average above 17?
No, who would have? We didn't with facts. So we didn't with facts.
Yeah, but okay, here are the facts. Remember when this team was picked, there was a great outcry for the simple reason. I remember in that interview, Dr. Shallow said that they are looking to get to reward performance. We had just had the CPL. There were a number of good performances in that CPL, and people were saying, what happened to these people? Why aren't they playing? And my question is, what is our plan for these players? And that's the real issue, because we keep looking at selection as a one-off thing. We're picking a player for this series or for this game. But permit me to give you an example to explain what I'm getting at. If Chris Gayle at 39 or 40 years old, however he is, so he's over 40, if we pick him averaging 17, there's no plan for the future there. You have to pick Chris Gayle at that age with the idea that he's going to win a tournament for you now. And if he's averaging 17, I don't think he's going to win anything for me now. But if we look at a person like Brandon King, for instance, who I thought gave a good showing against Pakistan recently. Now, Brandon King, his overall average doesn't set the world on fire. But in his last 2 outings for the West Indies, against Sri Lanka, in 2 games, he averaged 38 with a strike rate of 165. And in 3 games recently against Pakistan, he averaged 37 with a strike rate of 168. Now, at Brandon King's age, I am suggesting if we are talking about picking West Indies teams and improving West Indies cricket, we have to look at a player like Brandon King and say, do we think he has the goods? That's number 1. Can he give us 5, 10 good years in the future to take our cricket forward? That's number 2. And here's the third part, because we always look at selection in isolation, but we should not. Every player in the Caribbean, when they step up to international level, most of them, 90% of them struggle, because the technology will find you out. People will figure out how to play against you. And then what the West Indies needs is a mechanism around these players to then help them through that adjustment period at the higher level to cope with whatever is coming at them. Remember, other people are planning for you. You also have to go away and plan how you're going to respond. And what I'm saying in a nutshell, Wayne, is instead of saying this person has a better average than that person, let's look at where are we going with this player. Obviously, you have to look at his data, his average, his batting performances to say, does he even have the goods that we should be looking at him? But then we got to say, what's the longer term plan? Where can he take us? What's the best form of cricket for him? What do we, CWI, have to do to make sure he's successful? And I'm going to talk about that a bit more later, but you understand where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. When you pick a team of 35, 36-year-olds, you can only pick that team on the idea that they are good enough and in good enough form to win for you right now. These are not teams for the future. If they're not in good enough form to win right now, then they should not be playing.
Deighton, a lot of emphasis and a lot of your emphasis would have been put on the selection and the World Cup, the T20 World Cup selection. And that has been the, let's say, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But don't forget, this group would have been selecting teams even before then.
Yes.
And I thought that when I listen to a lot of discussion, I don't get that a lot of importance is given to their overall record. But then let's go back to the overall record. They did outside of what happened in the T20, as I said, which brought everything to that climax or to that top of the World Cup. But how would you have rated them outside of the World Cup, leading into the T20 World Cup? Did they work before then?
Right. No. For more than 10 years, more like 15 years, in all formats of the game, we have been in the lower levels of the world table. We've tended to fluctuate around 7th, 8th, and 9th in the world in all formats of the game. So during their tenure, we got no worse, but we got no better. We were still fluctuating around that 7, 8, 9 region all the time. Good. And this is why I was saying to you, Wayne, and this is how I'm going to judge them. There has to be a plan. So, for instance, Ocean Thomas. He came on the scene, raw pace. We all saw him. It was exciting. He was really sending down thunderbolts. And you think when you see that, we have something to work with. So as a selector, you have to show me what's your plan for Deighton Smith. And let me be clear, not Deighton Smith, sorry, for Ocean Thomas. And this is why I made the point earlier that selection can't exist in a vacuum. It cannot just be selectors. The selectors have to be working with the coaches, and they have to be working with CWI for a mechanism to develop players and to help players respond to challenges in the international game. So since Ocean Thomas came on the scene, what happened? He seemed to have had a few fitness issues at some point. He's come back now, he's playing. And what are we seeing? Nothing. He's just bowling fast. And there seems to be no plan.
He's not even bowling as fast as he used to.
Exactly. He's not bowling as fast as he used to. So if you compare him, for instance, to Shaheen Afridi, in fact, that entire Pakistan seam bowling attack, in the death overs, you see bowlers consistently bowling 4 Yorkers and 2 very good slower balls.
Except in the World Cup.
Well, yeah, there's no day off, but that happens to every player in the world. But all I'm saying to you is, if you watch them consistently, I understand. If you watch them consistently over a period of time, you recognize they are capable of doing this. When do we ever see Ocean Thomas? And I'm not trying to pick on him. I'm just trying to highlight where's the plan. How often does he get the Yorkers in on point? How often does he get the ball within that narrow channel where there's not enough width? How you get what I'm saying? Where is his bowling improving? Is he starting to swing the ball? Is he developing a good slower ball? What I'm saying is, if you want me to judge your selector, you have to have a plan for this player. So if he has raw pace and nothing else, then there has to be a plan which includes the selectors, which includes an academy, if you like, or any mechanism that the CWI has to say, the next time I see Ocean Thomas, number one, he must still be consistently bowling over 140 kilometers. Number two, I must see an improvement in his accuracy. You set targets, whatever they are. I must see him being able to fire in 2 Yorkers and over on target. You get what I'm saying? There must be a plan to say, I expect this of him. So 6 months from now, a year from now, we can go back to that plan and say, are we being successful?
I actually like where you're going with this, Deighton, because you call it a plan, but I like the point that selectors do not operate in a vacuum. Who set the case? Who set? Right. Who makes that decision? Right. First of all, I said, okay, go ahead.
I'm glad you're going this way because I really want to explore this one. Right now, we said we're not renewing the contracts of these 2 players. But when they picked this team, sitting and watching this team, I asked myself, is this team really a Roger Harper and Miles Bascombe team? And let me tell you my thinking.
First of all, if you remember my theory that I got out the Ram Shopping long, you remember that very well.
First of all, remember when the selection panel was picked, I think I remember hearing in those interviews that they will be reporting to Dr. Shallow. I think he was responsible for them. And then they said the 3rd member of that panel would be the coach, and the captain was sitting on all meetings. He would not have a vote, but he would have a say. So here are my questions that I raise in my own mind. I have observed Kieran Pollard for a long time. One of the reasons that he tends to ascend to captaincy in most teams that he plays in is because he's a strong, powerful individual. And I'm not just talking about physical strength. He has a strong personality. And I asked myself, can I see Kieran Pollard sitting in a room with two selectors and accepting what they're given? I cannot accept that team was not a team that he was happy with. I cannot accept that as a team that the coach was not happy with. I have to say that all of them must take responsibility for that team. So when you change the two selectors and then you leave the coach and the captain, have we fixed the issue?
Before I get there, though, Deighton, I want to ask, I still want to find out, have the West Indies cricket come up with a plan as to what are we doing? What kind of cricket are we going to play? What brand of cricket have we set for ourselves? What are the targets and the aims of West Indies cricket? Rather than just putting 11 men on the field and tell them go and play, there has to be a template laid down beforehand. Have we done that? And whether we have done it or not, who is responsible for that?
Okay, when you will recall that we had a program a couple of months back where I was talking about women's cricket. And I was mentioning the fact that as a new coach, Coach Walt should be saying to himself, the West Indies have been, in one-day cricket, for instance, the West Indies women have been scoring around about 150, 160, and we have to be looking to raise our average score up to 170, 180, then up to 200. Set yourself targets and where you're going. This is the plan I'm talking about. I don't see that in West Indies cricket. In fact, if you go back over the last 3 years in Test cricket, almost every Test match we play nowadays, not everyone, but pretty close to it, in at least one of the innings, we get bowled out for around 150, 160. That's not acceptable in Test cricket. So, right. So the selectors, the coaches, Cricket West Indies, and I'm going to say something about it in a minute, must be saying to themselves, if this is happening to us on a regular basis, over the next year, we have to move this from 160 to 180, 200, whatever it is. The point is you must see that there is an improvement in that team. And then you have to ask yourself how you do it. So here are some questions. You remember that selection panel you mentioned, the guy from Antigua?
Enoch Lewis?
Enoch Lewis.
Oh.
I sat on the West Indies cricket board with Enoch Lewis. And this was about 8 years ago. And at that, when I came on the board, he was head of the cricket committee. When I left the board, he was still head of the cricket committee. Where did our cricket go in that time? Right. So we can't, and look, I'm not picking on Enoch because I think he's a very nice guy, actually. I like him. My point I'm making is he was head of this committee and there was no progress. But we changed the selectors. You see? No, it has to be a holistic thing. There has to be a plan that goes throughout the organization. Let me give you an example of probably my favorite cricketer. I have a very soft spot for Shareholder, but I'm a very realistic man. In Test cricket, for all of the beauty that he brings to his batting, Shareholder averages 25 in Test cricket. My question to you is, and I don't expect you to answer, but I'm just trying to say what we should be doing as a plan. We have to ask ourselves, is Shareholder the future of our Test cricket? And if he is, what are we doing to move that average from 25 to 28, up to 30, up to 35? What is going wrong with him in Test cricket? What are we doing to correct those things? I'm not seeing that. Each time he plays Test cricket, I'm not seeing evidence.
But Deighton, you may not expect me to answer that question. I can answer that for you very easily. Very little. Some people would say precious little that we're doing. Yeah.
Right. And so, I'm not seeing evidence of anything, but I can't say what happens in the background because I'm not there.
Right. Well, whatever, if something's happening in the background, isn't working. But
exactly.
You know what?
That's a better statement.
I'm enjoying this. Notice I haven't even come in much here because I really enjoying this joke, if you want to call it that. But you all can notice. Sorry. The duel hasn't started yet. You see,
No, the duel hasn't started.
It hasn't started yet. You see, I try to give the viewers a little peek into the future. Viewers, by the way, who must be wondering what has happened to one of our regulars. Who are we talking about here? Gwen?
Well, there are a number of regulars. Let's say the first name that comes to mind is Hartley Reid.
Well, Hartley Reid isn't here. He's not here as such in person, but he has a message for our viewers, especially at this particular point in time. So let's see if he can share that message now.
It is a pleasure to come to you at this season, bringing greetings. The director and the producer of this show, Mr. Philip Hackett, had asked me to be a part of anything Cricket Let's Talk, and I deemed it a privilege. And indeed, I'm honored today to say that I hope that my contributions, frank and forthright, I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm hoping that the program will go from strength to strength. And at this occasion, I want to wish each and every viewer a Merry Christmas and all God's blessings for 2022. Merry Christmas all.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
Well, as only Hartley Reid can do it. And it was quite refreshing to hear Hartley. But Deighton was into some meat. I mean, we know that Christmas is a time for in a Barbadian context, lots of flesh. But I think Deighton was really now getting into the meat of the matter. We haven't even gone to Christmas yet. He seemed to have cooked his Christmas, but it's quite early. And I was certainly enjoying it. Very tasty, well seasoned, and everything. So, Deighton, you were.
Yeah, I was talking about my favorite cricketer, Shea. In one-day cricket, Shareholder averages 52. That is phenomenal in one-day cricket.
One of the best in the world.
In the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I have to ask the Cricket West Indies, what does he do in one-day cricket that he doesn't quite get right in Test cricket? And this is what I'm saying, there has to be a plan. CWI has to say to themselves, is Shareholder a one-day cricketer and nothing else? Or is there something that we need to work with him to get right in Test cricket, for instance? And I'm not going to try to give you the answer to that question. I'm just saying there has to be some kind of mechanism by which they can work with players to work out these issues. That's my point.
I am inclined to believe that even if it is not official, that there has been a policy in West Indies cricket and among the selectors and the management staff of spreading out the players, giving as many people as possible a piece of the action, rather than encouraging a number of our best cricketers to get themselves equipped for the various formats, so that we don't have this exclusive, as you mentioned just now, about whether a player is a white ball player or a red ball player. Like, there will be those specialist players there will be those specialist players. But I am suggesting that we do not encourage our players to adopt and adapt, and our better players to adapt to the various formats. And I'm going to use an example, and it's again with this same selection panel that we're discussing. You remember that tour to Bangladesh?
Yes.
When a number of the incumbents and a number of the expected showings in the West Indies team did not make that trip. and we had to resort to some replacements. You also remember that we played a one-day series before the test series started.
Yes.
And we sent some lambs to the slaughter. Let's put it that
Yes.
way. We occupied ourselves with separating the test players from the white ball players, and we took up Keon Otley and Andrea McCarthy and Keon Harding and a whole group of people who still learning, you know, who are still learning, who still got our L's when it comes to cricket, you know. But we took them, and not only did we do that, we surrendered that series, which counted towards the points for qualification for the World Cup, the 50 over World Cup. When we had the likes of Craig Brathwaite, Jermaine Blackwood, Akimar Roach, those kinds of players we had in Bangladesh at the same time, I really refused to play them in the one-day team. And I thought that it would have been a brilliant idea to give those guys the opportunity to get in some much needed cricket ahead of the important test series, and at the same time give ourselves a chance to compete with Bangladesh. We didn't do that. We've got this idea of spreading the players around the employment agency.
the word I use is welfare. I think a lot of times we think in a very welfare kind of mode. And it happens particularly in our franchises, because I see some franchises perform very poorly year after year, and then the same coach is there next year. So I can only assume that someone thinks he needs the job. But let me go back to this idea of a plan, right? I'm going to tackle it from a different angle, because this is what tells me that I'm not seeing a plan. If you are Pakistan and you are in need of a wicket, or you are in need of something special at your death, you can go to Shaheen Afridi. You've got this guy there. If you go through a lot of world teams, you have these go-to players. You have Shadab. You have all manner of players. In Australia, they have a barrage of fast bowlers that they call on.
Yeah, but also just to use the Australian example, they have a barrage of fast bowlers to call on, but when available, there are 3 people who play in all formats.
Yes, agreed.
Josh Hazel was a Mr. Start play one days,
yep,
20s and tests as long as they are fit and available.
Right. All right, and I'm glad you played that. Let's talk about them. Whenever you have Hazelwood in the team, in any form of cricket, in T20, he will bowl the new ball, and you know what you will get. Okay, you will get accuracy, you will get bumps, you will get movement, and you will get wickets. My question to you, and again, this comes back to the planning. Who is our go-to bowler in any form of cricket when you want that? Outside of Roach, I can't think of any. No, I'm serious. And I'm not criticizing our players. I'm saying, where's the plan? So, for instance,
not the players that fought here.
Right. So, if, for instance, you tell you regular, we don't have a shot bowler right now, and we want Ocean Thomas. By the way, just a quick story here. If you are a selector and you tell me you pick Ocean Thomas for his shock value, you take him to the World Cup. He's there for the shock value, and I was shocked he didn't play. No.
So I definitely think you misunderstood what was meant by shock value.
Please explain to me, Philip, because I'm lost. But here's the thing, right?
You would describe it yourself.
No, but here's the thing. You bring in another seam bowler into the squad from outside, and you put him in the team. I'm not saying he isn't deserving, but the fact that you put him straight in the team tells me what you think of Ocean Thomas. That tells me that you don't think he's ready, and he isn't. Ocean Thomas' economy rate in ODIs, in T20s, is 9.5 or something like that. It's over 9. And he's not giving you a barrage of wickets, so he's not ready. I'm just saying, if he's your man, then where's your plan? What are you doing with him? What's the work we are doing to get him there? He has the pace. What are we doing to improve his accuracy? What are we doing to help develop some seam movement or some swing? What are we doing to help him develop a slower ball? And what are we doing about his mindset, about thinking out situations?
But you're asking how is he doing though, Deighton? But some people ask the question, whose responsibility is it to look after that?
No, I didn't say how he do. I said, what are we doing? When I say we,
right, but what I'm saying, yes, but what I'm saying is that there are those people up there looking on who may be thinking, well, it is not about Cricket West Indies necessarily, or maybe even if it is, O'Shane Thomas or whoever else we're talking about, should actually be looking after their own interests. I'm just putting that out there to you, that there may be some people who believe that.
But there's somebody should be responsible for defining his role in the team.
Exactly.
What is his role? What
is the program?
And what is the program? Yeah.
For instance, here, Pat Cummings disappeared from cricket for a while because he had a bad injury. But was he home sitting down? No, he was not. He was actually in a rehabilitation program with Cricket West, with Cricket Australia.
Designed by Cricket Australia.
Right. And our rehabilitation didn't only mean to rehabilitate him in terms of strength and fitness and getting the injury back right. Rehabilitation was also preparing him to come back to international cricket in terms of his bowling. He was doing a lot of work on bowling and getting himself ready to play international cricket again.
That's also the same sort of program that Shareholder was in after he was dropped following I think it was the England tour. Then they said that they're leaving him out and they're going to do some work with him. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
Are you saying, Philip, that is suggested or that is what actually happened?
Exactly.
It was supposed to happen. I know it happened.
It was suggested.
So it didn't happen?
We
don't know. That's my point. We are not seeing.
We know that it happened with Cummings. That's what Deighton is saying.
Exactly. And it was announced. I mean, after that announcement that there would be a program for Shareholder, I never heard anything else. So I don't know if it happened or if it didn't happen. What I can tell you is that the performances of the West Indies team do not suggest that these things are happening. Well,
it may have happened, but then it didn't work.
Well, then somebody needs to adjust that program. That's what I'm saying. So there are two elements to this. Phil, to go back to your earlier point, I think a player must take some responsibility for himself. And the responsibility he must take is to be willing to work as hard as he can to taking whatever advice he's given, whatever instruction he's given. But I also believe that he needs the technical help. And that has to come through the Cricket West Indies. There has to be, and it isn't just on a tour or on it is madness to tell me you can bring him on a 2-week camp before a test series and that will fix all his problems. After the series, when he's struggled, is when you need to do some work well before the next series. And that work has to be very targeted to fix the particular issues that show that if he's struggling with the short ball, we're going to work on that for the next 2 or 3 months until the next tour. If he's struggling with the in-swinger, that's what we're going to do. The point is, I'm not seeing the evidence that is happening or that it is working. And that's why I'm saying you can't look at selection isolation. If I pick the guy because he has made the most runs in our regional tournament, and then he goes out there and he shows up a technical deficiency against the short ball, then as a selector, I should be telling the CWI, look, I think we should still invest in this guy, but we need to fix this problem. We need to fix this short ball issue. And then CWI have a coaching staff that travels with them, but they also have coaches all around the region. I mean, the CWI pays the coaches in the franchises. When O'Shane Thomas goes back to Jamaica, why can they not send a program to the coach of the Jamaica franchise and say, for the next month or 2 months, I want O'Shane Thomas to be doing this. If he doesn't do it, he's out of my team.
It comes back to your word again, Deighton. Do we have a plan?
That's my point. I'm saying I want to see this plan. I want to see. You don't have to show me detail, but show me that something is happening. Show me.
Well, I said, hey, you know, we still have to be. I mean, the selectors are only people. They're only human beings, like you and I. I mean, if you and I were supposed to be Harper and Bascom tonight, there will still be people calling for our heads.
Yes.
Because we still operating in this vacuum, you know. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you a question though, Deighton. We talk of the plan and we talk about a brand and how we're going to play the cricket. My question to you is, do we design a plan, construct a plan and ask the players to operate around our plan? Or do we look at the players we have and design a plan to basically extract the best from them, or what we determine to be the best from them?
Okay. Let me give you a personal example. I think you know I coach football.
Yes, I do.
The young Barbadian young player who's just gone on a trial in Spain, and he was interviewed. And in the interview, he gave me credit for the fact that when I coached him, I changed the role he used to play. He used to play as a winger, and I made him into a striker, and I also taught him to play behind the striker, and he ended up scoring a ton of goals, right? So I give you that story to tell you this. It has to be a collaborative effort. As selectors, that's why you pick me as a selector, because I should have an eye for these things. If I watch Brandon King batting, the two series I pointed out to you where Brandon King did well in T20, averaging 37-30. This is a decent T20 average. His strike rate in one case was 165 and the other was higher.
Both over 160 that you
Right, exactly. So I can look at this guy and say he can be very dangerous in the first 6 overs. Pair him with Evan Lewis and we could do a lot of damage. So if that's what I see as a selector, when I pick this guy, we should sit with him. I as a selector should sit with him and the coach and the captain and say, look, this is the role I see for you. Now, that does not stop the player from having ambition, because that player may well say, okay, fine, I'm going to go with that, but I still want to be a test cricketer. And while I'm working on your program, I'm going to do some work to improve myself as a possible test cricketer, which is fantastic. Nothing stops him from doing that. And so, but there should be some discussion so that the player knows what the plan is and that he agrees with it, because he might, sorry?
No, I don't want to break your flow really, but I really want to develop something there, or to clarify something there for me. So I hope you don't lose your train of thought. But you were talking about talking with the players.
Yes.
And I am wondering, and I'm made to wonder because of comments that I get from cricket people associated with cricket, some of whom claim to have the inside track to what's going on at Cricket West Indies level. And some of those comments, and I match that against my own experience as an educator, whether that be inside the classroom, on the playing field, or coaching somewhere. And I am wondering how much communication there is. When a guy can say that if a 23-year-old guy doesn't know, let's say, it doesn't take the time to get himself fit to pass your test, that's not his problem. Worse is that, in fact, that's his problem. You know, he really worked with that as a practitioner. That bothers me greatly. How do you determine that? And what dialogue is there? Do you assume that because a guy is 23 years old and he can play cricket well, that he has the life skills or the thinking that maximizes his ability to develop his potential? When we assume those things, I have to question your own training and your own competence as a practitioner.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, Wayne.
I was going to say, what you have brought to my thought, though, is traditionally, have we had selectors involved outside of just selecting a team and giving us a spot to the captain and the coach? Have we practiced the policy of having the selectors in on the strategic planning?
Or maybe before you go there, I want a little bit more input from Deighton on what he wrote, because Deighton obviously, with his experience as an administrator, may have some insight into the extent to which there is that communication. Because sometimes you've got to sit down with each, and I've done this, obviously not at the professional level because I haven't coached professionals, but where you sit and talk individually, in addition to all the team talks and the group talks. In other words, if you're talking to people who do the same thing, if it's football, you're talking to defenders, I don't know if you do that in your coaching, but then there's the individual conference, if you will, and this could happen with any degree of regularity. Every match is up to you. I'm wondering the extent to which that happens at the professional level in West Indies cricket, or if it is that these guys or 20 somebody years old, they're supposed to know, give them the program, go and train, you come back, you don't get 40, you're out, and we move on.
Right.
Can you give me any insight?
Let me answer it in this way, first of all. What I see on the field does not suggest to me that enough of that is happening. And I'll give you an example. How many times have all of us sat and watched a game and said, at a certain point in the game, what madness is this? What is he thinking? And you cannot understand why a player is doing something. To me, that says that he has not had enough of that conversation. And it can't be a one-off conversation about,
of course not,
about what his role is and about what you call game situations. I do not see evidence that it's happening. Now, if I go back to the situation with this player I was telling you about, my conversation with him was along the lines of, look, here are the attributes you have that make you perfect for this situation, for this position, even though that's not where you've traditionally played. And he was reluctant at first, and I said, let's try it. After every game that he played there, we had another discussion, because obviously he's used to playing somewhere else. We had this discussion again after every game. Here's your role. Here's where you got it right. Here's where you went back to old habits. And over time, he became a natural. My point is, it can't happen simply by picking him and say, play there or bat there. There has to be that discussion about what is your role. Let me give you an example, to go back to Brandon King again. When Shareholder plays in one-day cricket, he averages 52, but his strike rate is 65, which is not bad. I'm just saying, in T20 cricket, his strike rate is 130. The point is, he has a role that is really clear, and that's one thing I've said in watching West Indies cricket, that the one role that I can always see that's clear. Shareholder's role is to bat through that innings whenever he can. Now, I don't know how that was developed, if that was the kind of concept, or if Shareholder himself said, this is how I want to play. I don't know. But I'm saying I could see a role there. Now, if that was Brandon King playing in one-day cricket, where his strike rate is still very high, not quite as high as T20, but his role might be a little different. His role might be in the first 10 overs to get the ball away the way he would in the first 6 overs in T20 cricket. And Shareholder batting at the other end may have a slightly different role, if you see what I'm saying. When you see Evan Lewis playing in those early overs, he takes bowling apart. That role is different from Shareholder. All I'm saying is, all of those roles have to be discussed, and they have to be discussed in relation to the attributes that a player has. So it can't be just me sitting down as a selector and saying, I'm picking Wayne Holder because I think he's a good batsman. It has to be me saying, I'm picking Wayne Holder, he's going to be my wicketkeeper, and he's going to bat at number 3. He's not a finisher to be hitting the balls to the ground in the last 10 overs, so I don't want him batting at 7 and 8. He's going to bat at 3, and he's going to accumulate runs, and we are going to have that discussion with Wayne Holder. The coaches must know that role. They must have that discussion, and every game that they are at the ground when Wayne Holder is batting, they have to be reminding him of that role. When he comes in at a break, they have to talk to him. When they send out someone with gloves or water, they have to tell him, Wayne, remember we discussed this. This is what you're supposed to be doing. That is a plan, Wayne. That is a long-term plan where we see Wayne Holder playing this role for our team.
But for the purposes of our discussion and the topic here, as far as selection is concerned, have we actually given the selectors that kind of responsibility? And traditionally, have they played a part in, as I mentioned before, to get back to my question about the strategic planning for the actual play on the field? So,
in any organization, strategic planning cannot come from the bottom. I worked in a $10 billion organization for 26 years. And for a number of those years, I was involved in strategic planning of the organization. And it is done at the top, first of all. This is how it's done. All of the directors of that company buy into that plan. Then it is passed down. This is before the plan is implemented. It's passed down to the next level, which is the operational level. This is where you discuss it then with everyone else and say, look, this is what we want to do. In that second discussion, people at the operational level will point out things that might need to tweak. So a selector may say, well, look, if we do it this way, there's going to be a problem. We should tweak this. the coaches might say we should tweak this. So now you're refining your strategic plan. And then when everyone has agreed to it now, we sign it off and everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what their role is. And we take it from there. So if I'm at the top of that organization now, Wayne, when it starts to fall down, I look at it and I say to you as a selector, but look, this is what you were supposed to do. You're not following this. I look at the coaches, I say, what's going on here? Why am I not seeing any change in this bowler or this batsman, even though he's making the same mistake every game? You see what I'm getting at? We can all refer back to this document now. We know what the agreement was. Let's all get in line with it. When we start to stray, let's go back to it.
In that short space of time you were speaking, though, I took the time to make a trip to the ram shop in Longyat.
Nice
and
place.
The question in Longyat was, so should we be firing the selectors or the persons who selected the selectors?
Well, look, let me
before you went on that, Deighton, Vin also took a peek into my head because I actually wanted to go in that direction, referencing something you said earlier. It was around the time when you talked about Enoch Lewis and being in charge of the committee and nothing happened over many years and so on. And at that time, I was thinking, but I didn't want to interrupt you. The people at the top, if you will, or higher up, the people higher up are firing the ones lower down. For example, Harper and Bascom are gone, but nothing is likely to change. And you've identified a number of issues. You would notice that there was no real argument from Wayne. There was none from me. I'm checking the chat. I don't see any argument there. So one could assume that you're on the right track when you talk about the people up top. But they're not going to fire themselves. So although we know that that's where the problem lies, it seems to me that we have to maybe look for an alternative whereby even with that level of incompetence up there, that we can survive until maybe somewhere down the road something happens. How would you respond to that?
Let me give you a glimmer of hope here. I hope I'm not being too optimistic here, but I saw a report about when this decision was taken not to renew this contract, where the heads of the territories all met with the president and the vice president. Did you see this report where they said they made this decision?
And I saw reports of the report.
Right. But when something struck me, I'm one of these people, I always pick up on these things, and I'm surprised that no one developed it further or asked any questions about it in the reporting. But it was said that at that meeting, it was recommended that the current selectors be extended. And the group, and I get the impression that it was all of the heads of all the territories said no. So here's the thing. My question, I always have questions. My question is this: who recommended that they should stay on? And why?
And,
because you can't recommend to stay on based on their performance.
I would hope that I'm not compromising the integrity of the show, but I tell you that I saw reports of a report.
Yes.
And among the reports that I got was that there was a particular territory, a particular territorial board who did not actually sign on, who abstained from the vote.
I was coming to that.
Again, when we talk about people getting in people's heads, now
my lawyer says it's okay for you to reveal that.
Because I had the note here to bring up, hopefully to bring up later in the show, about how instructive would that have been that there was a particular board who abstained from the vote.
Here's
and there are a couple of hundred people in the chat waiting to hear this board as well.
Okay, so
the report said the windwards.
He said the windwards.
Okay.
The report said the windwards.
I don't think there's anyone who's watching the show who's in shock.
Let me put some facts on the table here, and I can leave people to connect these dots however they want. There's something in West Indies cricket that we just have to get away from. We get a Barbadian captain, and we suddenly find we have a lot of Barbadian players. We get a Trinidad captain, and we find we suddenly have a lot of Trinidad players. This happens too often. But here's what happened now. We had this selection panel. The review was headed by Dr. Shallow, who's of Vincentian. And after the review—
President of the Windward Islands Cricket Board.
Yes, he's the president of the Windward Cricket Board. And after that review, we picked two selectors. One of them was Miles Bascom of Vincentian, who had played a little bit of first-class cricket, not a lot, and then we heard nothing about him since then. And suddenly he's selecting West Indies teams. He's not selecting a youth team and coming up to the ranks. He's not made his mark in any other way that I know of. But suddenly he's selecting West Indies team.
Although, and again, just to stick a pin, although in all fairness, remember the process that led to his selection would have been somewhat transparent.
But there would also have been someone making a recommendation. There's always a recommendation.
When
There's always a
I don't know how
recommendation.
transparent it was.
Anyway.
I don't know how transparent it was because you remember that there was there were interviews, I believe. But he actually sat on the board that made the recommendations for
I was coming forward.
So I don't know how transparent that is.
How can you be on a committee that proposes this thing and then you are applying for the job? There's something wrong with that. Now, he may be a good selector. All I'm saying is that's not transparency. You cannot be on the panel that sets the process in place and then go and be interviewed by that panel for the job. It's not the right thing to do. But let me continue where I'm going with this, right? So you do that. Then you have this situation where the Windwards abstain. That would suggest to me that the Windwards did not necessarily want to go against the recommendation to keep these. And my question would be, who would have made that recommendation that the Windwards would not want to go against? You see my point? So this is what I'm saying to you. This is a holistic thing. After that performance, who would want to keep those selectors for another 2 years?
Well, that's an interesting question, Deighton, and one which we I don't know if you get an answer to it, but just let me update you. We've got some viewers here. Norman Puckering, who we all know quite well, he said, and this would have been with reference to something that you would have said earlier, Deighton, give me 2 weeks with Thomas and I change him. Coach has failed to change Thomas' bowling action, but I believe the coaches do not know how to correct his action. But actually, I think there's a lot that these coaches don't know, which is why they spend so much time with this yo-yo test, because they don't seem to know what to do in terms of the cricket skills. I make no apologies for saying that. But anyhow, this is me saying that on Norman Puckering. So to go back to Norman Puckering, he believes that the coaches do not know how to correct his action. First, he has to be trained to be more athletic, and his movement as a bowler will improve. That's his contribution. Terry Ennis is saying that he's wishing all of us and the viewers a Merry Christmas. So that's the update in the chat. And while we're at it, it's probably a good time to take another break here, because there's another guy who we all know well who has something in common with Deighton and myself. Sorry, man, you can't get it on this one. A guy called
outside of being human.
That sounds like Jason King.
Outside of being human,
yes.
I've got friends who are not human.
So Jason King has a message for us.
Thank you.
This is Jason King from Anything Cricket, Let's Talk. So all our many viewers and well-wishers, I want to wish you and your respective families a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous, healthy, and especially safe 2022. Keep watching us throughout the year 2022 as we continue to have interesting discussions around the king of sports, which is the game we all love, cricket. Again, all the best to you from Jason King from Anything Cricket, Let's Talk.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
Don't let annoying pests bug you. Lick them for 6. Omega Pest Control is the perfect solution. We are experts in termite and pest eradication, specialized mosquito treatments, foundation, residential, commercial, and industrial treatments. Call us day or night, or visit us at our office located at Fieldside Drive, Long Gap, St. Michael. Omega Pest Control. Call 425-5954, 231-6526, or email us at opcl@caribsurf.com.
Well, Deighton, certainly throwing a lot of questions your way. Keep you rather busy, but I think you've handled yourself well.
But thank you very much.
Well, Deighton is a quality player, man. if the selectors didn't pick Deighton, I think they should have been sacked. You know, but yeah, as we get towards the bottom end of the discussion, though, just to again, you know, I have been quote unquote trained, you know, to especially in this capacity as a moderator and a host, to try to bring some kind of balance and represent all parties. Mm-hmm. And here is now that I am going to go on the side of trying to represent the selectors, the much maligned selectors. How fair is it to them, though, or that we talk about the paltry standards or the lower standards in West Indies cricket and the players that we have to choose from, but then we expect miracles as far as the results are concerned from the selectors. How fair are we to them, though, given the quality of the resources from which they have to choose?
When prior to the World Cup and debacle, I was not very critical of the selectors. And the reason is, and I've heard you say this, I've heard other people say this, and I'm in 100% agreement with it. Right now, the way we are structured, the way we operate, the way we have our coaching setup, etc., we are not producing players who are ready for international level. It takes them a while to get themselves ready once they go up there. They have to actually learn a lot on the job. So the selectors start off by having to pick from a bunch that most of whom are not ready for that level. Not their fault, is the system within which they are. So the only reason that I said categorically that the selectors had to go in this case is because there were some really clear missteps, some bad errors in the World Cup team. And my advice to selectors is this. Because when I was on the board, I have to tell you, we had an incident where there was a huge debate because there was clear attempt to interfere with the selection. And when I watched that World Cup team, I am not convinced that Harper and Bascom were the only ones who wanted that team. And my advice to selectors is this: your job is to select a team. If other people are trying to influence you, you're the ones who are responsible. Stand up and say, I do not agree with this team. And if you don't agree with it, let them fire you so that they can take responsibility for the team. Because as long as you put that team out there and you stand in front of the press and say, this is the team that I picked, then you have to take responsibility for their performance.
And it shows that association that we have, there's a reason for it. And that sometimes we think on the same wavelength. Because remember, I threw that question to you. I don't know if you were directly trying to respond to it, but that's exactly what it was getting at. When I said that, let's be practical. The board members who are, if you want to say they're mismanaging, they're not going to fire themselves just like that. I'm not saying it can't happen somewhere down the road where circumstances are such that somebody does something about it, but they're not going to fire themselves next week.
But Philip,
so what is you?
This glimmer of hope I was telling, right? The glimmer of hope I was telling you about earlier. Go ahead. Yeah,
just to finish it quickly. They're not going to fire themselves next week. So what is the next best thing we could hope for?
Right.
When the next set of selectors are put in place, even if it is within, if they're put in for the wrong reason, we have to hope somehow, because we have no say in the matter, that these are people of integrity, just as you said, so that they do what they think is best. No, they don't get rid all the time, but that they do what they think is best. And if you do what you think is best, then as a man or woman, you've got to take responsibility for it. If it works, good. But if it doesn't work, you got to be prepared to stop.
No, earlier I was telling you about a glimmer of hope, right? And this is the glimmer of hope. When those territorial heads sat down that day and said, we do not agree with this proposal to continue with these players, we are firing them. I believe very strongly that happened for one reason only. There was an outcry around the region. Shows like Anything Cricket, Let's Talk, chats all around the Caribbean, journalists in all kinds of publications all came out and not only disagreed.
Former players, a lot of the
former players not only
of the
disagreed, but they all put down clear reasoning, good evidence why there was something wrong. It shows that when enough of us stand up and say we are not satisfied, that somebody will listen. What has to happen, Wayne and Philip, is that we have to keep those of us who love cricket speaking out when there are things that we see that are wrong. And I think that is how we will get some action.
I think you're perfectly right.
Now we are left with an interim panel. I think they're telling me that the head coach, the captains of the various formats, under the supervision of the director of cricket, will, for the immediate future, be selecting the teams. Be that as it may, though, Deighton, any suggestions, though, about how we can go forward? I mean, whether it be personnel, I mean, the kind of personnel that you seek, the kind of training and qualification you seek, the model of the panel. We come from an era when there used to be 5 West Indies selectors when we were youngsters growing up. We've now seen different transitions. It went to 3, now it went to what it is. So what are your suggestions?
Yeah, I think there's something more important than all those things, because the truth is, whenever the West Indies hire people, I was on the board. When we hire anyone, we hire a coach. There's all sort of list of criteria, all sort of qualifications they ask for. I'm past that. The thing to me that's more important is this: when they did the review in 2019, they claimed there was a new policy. In the interview, Dr. Shallow alluded to some of those things that were in that policy, but I've never seen it. I don't know if you have. What has to happen is that when this new panel is elected, journalists around the region must ask, must insist, must badger CWI until they publish that policy. The reason for that is, once you have a published policy in anything, that gives you a standard against which to compare what's actually happening. So as a journalist yourself, Wayne, you can now legitimately go in the media or go to a press conference when one of these things happens and ask relevant questions to say, look, your policy says this, what's going on here? So by having a published policy, it allows the journalists in the region, it allows cricket lovers like myself to hold CWI to that policy. That's number one. Number two, CWI must also publish a clear strategy for player development. They must publish it. We always hear, like you said earlier, like people said we're going to do some work with Shareholder. We don't know what that means. We want to know what's the player development model. And by development, I don't only mean developing them from youth, which is important, but also development when you become an international player. How do I correct issues? Lendl Simmons, whenever he faced a leg spinner in T20 cricket, he always looked at C for his entire career. All I'm saying is, where do we correct that? What's the mechanism? That needs to be published. If we publish those two things, it allows the journalists, it allows the players. Remember, you asked me earlier if the players know these things. It allows the player to say to himself, like, you know what, I'm struggling with this. Why am I not part of this program or within this mechanism that they say should correct this? And you can go and raise it yourself. As a player, you can go to the coach, you can go to the captain, you can go to the president and say, look, you know what, I've been struggling with this for a while and nobody's put me in a program. Nobody has taken me up to Antigua and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you publish those two things, I'm not asking for anything else. Publish the selection policy, publish the player development policy. If you are proud of it, you can publish it. If you are not publishing it, that suggests to me you have something to hide.
Well
publish
said,
it, and let us all critique it. Let us measure you against it. That's my say.
Well said, Deighton. And you know, we can go on, but I mean, we'll go on, just not tonight. The show will go on, but I mean, this particular topic, we've got a lot more for you. We've got what's wrong with that guy who's always complaining, Martin Parris. He complains daily. They can tell you, he complains about just about everything. So occasionally we give him a chance to complain publicly by using the show, his segment, What's Wrong. But he also has a message for you as well, because he's a very sociable guy. I don't know how well you know Martin. Very sociable guy. So he will not let the season go by without having his say. But even before we get to that, there's a guy called Jason Parris, and I don't know if you've ever bowled at him. I think you all may be at two different eras. He used to play for Empire, and then he disappeared. He played for Barbados, and
I played against him once.
You played against him once. How did that end?
I did well.
Which would suggest he did it. But anyhow, we had a chat with him, Vin and I had a chat with him very recently. He is getting involved or becoming more involved in coaching, and he's got this in association with a couple of other people, this coaching school. And he's going to be telling us all about it in our next segment. So before we go to that, we just want to thank you, Deighton, for sharing your thoughts. I always enjoy your input. You really use that experience that you've had at various levels, and you bring all that to bear on your perspective when you come on the show. Wayne finds this funny.
A funny scenario came back to me when you talk about Deighton and his different capacity, because Deighton came to my thoughts this week when I saw Joe Root suffer. I don't know, y'all guys might have
a painful blow.
The indignity.
Yeah.
What transpired during the test match, and it brought back one of the memories of my cricket playing life. Because Ted Simmons once told the guy that there are people who have careers and there are people who play cricket. So I played cricket, and one of the scenarios, and why Deighton becomes instructive here. There was a guy called O'Neill Payne, Deighton.
Yes.
You would have played with him at
Barclays. At Barclays, correct.
Well, at 13 years old, I had my second division game playing for the school against Barclays at Highgate. And this guy, O'Neill Payne, was stiff medium pacer, balled me this leg cutter, started around leg stump just outside and squared me up. And he hit me in that area where at 13 years old, playing in short parts. I think I barely had on a brief and that short parts. So no protection whatsoever. What I can tell you is that for the next 10 seconds, I saw my brief lifespan flash before my eyes. It is the first time that I realized. You remember, you watch cartoons, and you see when the cartoon characters take a blow, those little stars that go around their head.
Yeah.
That is not only in cartoons, that happens in real life too.
Make reservations, man.
So when I saw Joe Root going through his contortions, I could totally identify with him. And as I said, O'Neill Payne, I had just had a discussion with Philip about you and the program coming up. So that is hence the connection. That incident brought you into my thoughts.
Okay, that's a good one. Anyhow, thanks a lot again to Deighton. As I said, we'll be calling on you again soon. I hope you know that in the new year, this is our final show for the year, and we'll be starting back around the second week or so of January. So we will definitely be calling on you, because we're going to be doing a review program, and we will need your input at some point. That review program, who knows if it will be one show or two, yet to be decided. But thanks again, and we're going to hear what Martin has to say, that message he has for us, and then we'll be hearing from Jason Parris.
Thank you, Deighton.
What a year it's been for us in anything cricket. Let's talk. And the wider lovers of cricket around the world. For all of you who have viewed any episode of Anything Cricket, Let's Talk, I wish you peace, joy upon earth amongst all mankind, and the best of health now and in the years to come. And as my Welsh heritage is moved for me to say, may your best day of 2021 be your worst in 2022. Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
Don't let annoying pests bug you. Lick them for 6. Omega Pest Control is the perfect solution. We are experts in termite and pest eradication, specialized mosquito treatments, foundation, residential, commercial, and industrial treatments. Call us day or night or visit us at our office located at Fieldside Drive, Long Gap, St. Michael. Omega Pest Control. Call 425-5954, 231-6526, or email us at opcl@caribsurf.com. You know, I remember some years ago, one memory that comes to mind, I don't know why I think it was at North Stars. There was this guy back in the day for Barbados. And he played a couple of games. I don't remember exactly how many. You tend to have the knowledge for statistics. But he certainly he certainly played at the national level. And even apart from that, would have fought diligently for Empire and other teams on the local level. He has really made his contribution to cricket. One called Jason Parris. They often call him JP. But now he is on a different mission. And he's going to share what drives him in terms of that mission of developing young cricketers. So welcome to Anything Cricket Let's Talk, Jason Parris.
Hi, good night, guys. Glad for having me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, please.
Yeah, JP disappeared off the scene, man. I mean, one minute he was there, and then the next minute he was not.
Well, I know he's been doing good things though. But anyhow, he will tell you about the good things he's been doing because he's also an educator. At least when last I chatted with him, he was. I don't know if he's disappeared from that as well. I don't know. JP, you're still doing that noble profession?
I'm still in the profession. Actually, this year I'm celebrating 20 years in teaching and then 20 years in coaching as well. So, I mean, my good friend Wayne is saying that I disappeared. It's not that I disappeared. I actually went into a bit of entertainment. So I actually went into entertainment, and that's where I was for a bit. I was still in cricket from the kiddie cricket end. So I was working with the West Indies board with the kiddie cricket. So I was coaching at schools and that kind of thing. So I was still around, but I wasn't playing any cricket on the higher level, I should say.
Right. I was speaking particularly about competitively, especially at the club level, the domestic level. I mean, playing for Empire, as Philip spoke about, and making your presence felt. That's exactly what I meant. I know about a number of things that you were doing otherwise.
Yes.
You gotta be careful with that, Jason, in future to let me know your business though. So he said he knows other things that you were doing. So I hope that thing that we can talk about on this show.
He thought about entertainment. I know there was a thing there to do something to do with cooking and
okay.
And that side of things. I happen to know of that also.
Okay. Yeah. That can pass on the show. No problems there.
But we are my good friend, so that's all right. I don't think you would say anything to put me into trouble.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Philip, you see this young man? I know this young man from a kid. I remember when I was back in the day when I was into promoting cricket competitions, community cricket competitions. JP, Kevin Stout, Jaming Emptage, Andrew Emptage, Jamal Smith. These were all young guys that came up from the Deacons Road, Ferniehurst, Belfield area and participating. So I watched JP grow from a fairly young kid right up to
very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, so JP, tell us what you're doing now with this initiative. You've got Coaching Academy going.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a coaching academy. I find that a lot of guys like to just put on the word academy onto things, but I want to stick with the coaching school because for me, I think that right now we need to go back to the fundamentals and the foundation side of things, the kind of root side of things right now where cricket is concerned. For me, I would have worked in the kiddie cricket program for 9 years or so, and that program has no halt to this no more. For me, I think that program is very much needed in terms of getting fellas to play cricket from a young age and And let me just say that there's a lot of competition for cricket now, because there's these things called PlayStations. And these PlayStations are very, very entertaining and stuff like that. So it's very easy for a guy to say, well,
I think you can even play cricket on the PlayStations too.
Of course. So for me now, I know that it is something now that is a real problem, or what should I say, it's a big competitor for what cricket is, And I think that cricket right now is really losing it. It's really losing its impetus and so on, where the youngsters are concerned. And for me, I'm a little weary about that, because we have to have a succession plan in West Indies cricket. And I say that to say that I hope there is one. All right. And I am not seeing that right now, any evidence of it, because for me right now, we had 2 years of COVID, and I think we didn't have any youth tournaments per se. And for me, if you have no youth tournaments, it means that you are not going to get to see the talent showcasing and so on. I know for sure that there's an under-19 tournament going on in the Caribbean right now, the World Cup. And I know that that team was chosen, and I don't think there was any tournament per se to have chosen that team. So it means that they have some guys that would miss out, especially a guy who is going to turn 19 pretty soon. It means that he didn't get a chance to showcase his talent, and very well, but they've been chosen to be a part of that West Indies team, which is a little heartbreaking, So for me, for that standpoint, right now you're still hosting main tournaments, but we're not having any youth tournaments. And I'm not even sure which is really the more important, because for me right now, I think you need to put some emphasis on the youth. We have to get some guys into operation where, they can replace some of these older guys that are going on and leaving cricket right now. And if you face COVID and you're not going to do anything, it means that you're going to run yourself into trouble, because COVID is not going anywhere. So we need to find we have to find some way of operating with COVID and still being able to develop talent within the Caribbean and stuff like that. For sure, within Barbados, we cannot let COVID stop us from developing talent. We cannot let COVID stop us from developing young men who want to be involved in sports and so on. When I say that, cricket is not only on the field, there are many jobs that are associated with cricket. And if there's no cricket, these jobs are going to be by the wayside. And for me, that's a major concern, not only as a former cricketer, a coach, as an educator as well, because I know for sure that there are many jobs. I mean, some people cannot even start to believe the jobs that are affiliated with cricket and sport. Scholarships and that kind of thing that are available. And for me, that's a major problem, because I often wonder if scholarships are secret in Barbados when it comes to cricket and so on. Because you don't hear about them. You don't hear about a guy from this place or that place getting a scholarship or anything. It seems to me only certain people get scholarships or know about them. And I think for sure, we are a cricketing nation. Why are not more cricket scholarships being offered to young people, to young talents? And when I say young people, I mean female, male, it doesn't matter. I just think that for me, more needs to be done, especially with cricket and sport in Barbados. And we brag so much about cigar-free sobers and so on. But, to me, we don't follow through. We don't really follow through in showing that we are really a cricketing nation. That's a major concern for me. As a former cricketer, as a person who's been involved with education, I would have been involved with the university as well in terms of developing cricket and merging sport and education. And to me, I don't see enough evidence of it really working in Barbados. That's the honest to God truth.
But Jason, you raised an issue there. You said you don't know which is worse in terms of the loss of competition, whether with the men or the youngsters. And I'll share a short story with you, which may give some insight into maybe a possible answer to that question, if there's a one answer. I was chatting with a friend recently, and we ended up talking about a youngster that he was mentoring, in a sense, in that he would take the youngster to cricket to make sure he would get some competition and so on. This is a youngster. I get the impression he is on the wrong. He's not yet 15. He's younger than that, and still at school. And he told me that. So I asked him, how's the youngster doing? If he's still interested in cricket. Well, he says he believes that he is, but he's not sure where his interest will be by the time they go back playing. He said to me that he was supposed to play for a club, in the season that was planned recently that didn't come off. That didn't happen. And he's not sure where the guy's interest would be by the time this is over. And when you think about it, Jason, a guy at 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, who is now learning cricket, so to speak, and there's no cricket for 2 years, what's the probability that his interest will be the same after that?
Will not. It definitely will not. I can say that for a fact. It will not.
Yeah.
These youngsters have so many distractions. I know at first hand, my son loves cricket. And I remember, you know, like his final year in primary school, there was no Herman Griffith. Good thing for him that he did really well when he was in class 3. So he has the memories of those things. But I can remember all year, like basically all year, my son asking me, Daddy, when cricket is starting? When is cricket starting? He ain't just come on here now, and he's still asking me the same question. You know, he's asking me, Daddy, when is cricket starting? What's happening? I'm hearing nothing. You know, he's being invited to join a chess club, to join this kind of club, and there's no cricket club. There's nothing going on at Comamere in terms of cricket. Good luck for him. He was entered into the Center of Excellence around the 8th of the term. They would have started their program. So then he was able to do some virtual exercises, you know, on the computer with the trainer at Center of Excellence. But that is still not cricket. That's still not the skill set. That's still not nothing really happening for him. So, you know, he started to lose interest. You know, he very well just wanted to be on his laptop, on his tablet or whatever, playing games all the time. And I saw him starting to lose that interest. And that kind of woke me up as well. So I started to make sure I take him out to train. So I would go train with him. I would go and practice him, throw balls at him, you know, do stuff. And build back his enthusiasm. Good luck for me. There's a gentleman by the name of Patrick Wave. I know you guys will know him as Noddy. He's also Joe Archer's stepfather. And let me just say that Noddy, Patrick Wave is a fantastic human being. He really cares about young people and about cricket and stuff like that. And he would have constructed a facility by his home. And he said to me, you know, in talking, he said to me, well, I know you're starting the school and so on. You know, let's talk. Let's work together to start to build back, you know, the interest in cricket amongst the young persons. And we have a lot of youngsters that are around us and so on that are interested in cricket. So we were able to start this program. And at his house, you know, at his home, we tried to do, you know, more or less one-on-one sessions and so on, because, you know, in light of COVID, we still want to be very safe. So for me, I am a big believer of coaching one-on-one and coaching in small groups. I find guys learn a lot better. You know, there are less distractions, that kind of thing. So for me, that facility worked out very well for me. And, you know, I just didn't want to stop at that point. So then I obviously would have, in my school, I want to look at things like time management. I want to look at things like fitness. I want to look at things like strategy and that kind of thing. I also want to hold some course for parents, because I think that parents they need help with knowing how to parent and having necessary skills in being able to parent. But imagine now a guy who is a sports, who's an athlete, who's an academic, and he's merging that with sports. He needs to have a parent that understands. He has to have a parent that is able to drive him, or her, I should say, being able to get their work done, time manage, being able to do the work, being able to practice and stuff like that. It's not easy. And let me just say that right now with the COVID situation, with us working from home, education is even harder. We are spending so many hours on the laptop, on the computers and stuff like that, and being able to juggle that, and then assignments and stuff like that, and still being able to get out there and still have some physical activity is so challenging right now. So we need parents to understand how to do it. And we also need parents to know, well, my son wants a scholarship. How do I go about this? You know, there's no one saying, well, listen, you have to do this. You have to maintain a grade point average of this. There's nothing going on like that. I want to be that person to say to people, this is how you go about getting a scholarship. This is how you go about, whether it's overseas or even here in Barbados, because we in Barbados can offer scholarships as well. The University of the West Indies, I know they used to offer a couple of scholarships before. You can have some of them at community college. You can have some of them at the Polytechnic. So to me, we need to find ways to motivate these young people. The guy wants to play cricket, fine. But we also want him to have education. And at the end of the day, I think we have to exercise our brains. And the exercise for our brains is through academics. You know, you need to be able to think. So a guy who is batting and captain puts in a long on and long off, has to be able to think and say, well, listen, you know what, I got to hit the ball on the ground because the long on and long off going back. Not a guy that's going to believe, but I am he-man, so I'm going to clear that boundary anyway, right? So that's not assessing, that's not thinking. I think a lot of people need to learn how to think and comprehend. So we need academics merged with sport. You cannot have sport without academics. I'm sorry, it just cannot work. We need thinkers.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Tell us about before we go back to Wayne, tell us about the Christmas Cricket Skills Assessment Clinic.
Yeah, well, what I'm doing with that, I mean, that's a little different. Well, being that we were off for 2 years now, I know for sure that I've had some boys, they can't even remember what was a cover drive, or how to play a cover drive, or how to execute a cut shot. You know, you might be smiling, but I'm very serious.
No, I'm smiling because it reminds me of Wayne when Wayne was batting.
There are guys who cannot play a sweep shot, cannot remember how to play a forward and keep their balance and that kind of thing. Because 2 years is a long time. But we will find facility in online school to make sure that a guy still knows how to divide 20 by 2. So at the end of the day, we need to find an assessment to make sure that a guy can still hold the bat correctly, a guy can still cover drive, a guy can still play a pull shot. I think this is so important. And I can just say, I would say for sure that if there are 25 to 30 boys that we have dealt with, everybody has been unfit. Everybody has went to their knees in terms of lack of fitness. So it means that we need to get people, our youngsters, back there to a point where they're fit again, and that they can, you know, basically handle the rigors of cricket and being on the field. I'm talking like there are guys who literally like 5 to 10 boys have caught dark eyes already during these sessions. Like, good thing their parents are always there, but it's like, you know, their bodies are not accustomed to the sun anymore. Their bodies are not accustomed to sprinting between the wickets anymore. You know, like a lot has definitely changed. I know for sure that it's not going to be an easy comeback. So we need to really put our heads to the plow because you're building fitness again, you're building skill levels again. So definitely cricketers will be behind. So for me, we need to get these things started as soon as possible because you don't want people not to be able to add or subtract for 2 weeks, but we have cricketers who want to go forward in their future and make money and that kind of thing. We have them off for 2 years. So to me, that's not adding up at all. I mean, COVID is real. Don't get me wrong, COVID is real. And I am vaccinated as well because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do to be able to, you know, to stand up in society and in the world because it's definitely changing. So for me, you need to do what you have to do. You need to eat properly. And we are providing meal plans as well. Fitness, we are giving you a fitness plan at the end of the course as well. And you're going to train how to basically your endurance, your strength. We're doing some different tests, man. And we're going to check out to see if a guy can still cover drive, a guy can still sweep, a guy can still cut without me having to say to them or demonstrate to them what a cut shot is.
Well, I know if you need someone to demonstrate the keeping skills, you've got the man right there, in.
Yes, please.
Once upon a time, but I guess, but then again, I consider myself a cricketer. Once a cricketer, always a cricketer. I'm still at the point of trying to perfect my game, believe it or not. But JP, you said so much, I just don't know where to start. You know, I just want to join you though in extending my congratulations both to you and to Noddy. I know of the tremendous work that Noddy has done with the Pickwick youth program, for instance. I mean, he has been part of the backbone of that program and seen it has grown from over the years, the Pickwick Juniors program. And I'm also made to understand that Geoffrey himself, Geoffrey Archer, has also made something of a contribution. How is Geoffrey involved with your program?
Right. Well, as I said, it would have been a merge between myself and Patrick. And you know, obviously, this facility is by his home. So obviously, you know, Geoffrey was in Barbados for quite a bit there. He was done obviously with injury and so on. And let me just say that the youngsters enjoy hanging out with Geoffrey. You know, Geoffrey will come out and bowl at them. They will bowl at him, that kind of thing. The interaction is fantastic. So you know, we came together and we decided to put our heads together. And let me just say that, you know, congratulations must go also to Patrick as well, because he has created something called the JA Academy. All right. So, you know, what I'm doing, as I said, I'm not coaching guys or preparing guys to necessarily have a team. So I'm not necessarily having a team to enter into any competition. I am basically, I'm working like a primary school. So I'm the foundation. So I'm going to coach guys the basics. You know, any guys from any team, you know, I'm preparing them then to, let me just say that I think cricket needs to be structured. So I call the academies kind of like secondary schools. So then, you know, I will pass them on to the JA Academy, which is obviously the Joffre Archers Academy, which is obviously owned by Joffre and Patrick and so on. So I work alongside them. Actually, we coach during the week, and then on Sundays, we have something called, let me say, the kind of give back Sunday, which is sponsored by the JA Academy. And very soon, you will definitely, when the COVID holds up, you will see how the JA Academy is going to work. It's going to be going into different communities and playing matches. You know, remember years ago, guys used to move around and play some matches and stuff like that. And that is something that the JA Academy wants to bring back as well. So I will coach the guys the basics, and then they get to showcase. So we call it Showcase Sundays, actually. Showcase Sundays sponsored by the JA Academy. And once, as I said, we get the go-ahead that we can move around again, we will be organizing matches in communities with these youngsters, you know, to see how the coaching of the drills and so on is going to come to fruition. You know, what are they going to, how are we going to evaluate them? We want to evaluate them by playing matches, playing games. So then that is what the JA Academy is going to be doing. Obviously, I will be working with the JA Academy as well. But as I said, in the cricket school, I am dealing with the basics. I'm dealing with the academics as well. As I said, for my school, you have to be scoring 60 or more. So for guys in primary school, obviously, you know, you got grammar, you got English comprehension, that kind of thing. But the difference is what we're going to be doing. The tutors within that setup are going to be providing material that has cricketing information. So for example, you want to have 22 guys on the field. If you know, let's say for example, if you want to, 11 guys per team, how many guys will be in 2 cricket teams? That kind of language in terms of cricket, right? So that boys, you know, I find that boys are left out. A lot of the material that they have in school is kind of like geared towards the girls, you know, so sometimes the boys kind of lose interest. We want to have compositions where we are going to ask the boys to write about their, who's your favorite, you know, who's your hero? You know, a guy might say, well, Joffre Archer is my hero. But you will write a composition about Joffre Archer. So you write about his background in playing cricket in England, where he came from here in Barbados, the clubs he represented, which school he went to. And all of that information is still building a composition. But the difference is that it's going to interest a fellow that's a cricketer. Yeah. And to me, I think that.
And it helps them to be aware of their local heroes, because sometimes, I mean, it's not a new problem where, you know, our young people can recognize a basketball star from the NBA or some, you know, some other international figure, if you will. And they don't know. I remember when my days in the classroom, and we would have, you know, these sort of like the type of quizzes that you don't necessarily prepare them for with any instruction before, just a more a kind of a game type thing. And, you know, you'd be amazed sometimes if you ask a question like, who's the captain of the West Indies cricket team? You know, you would be amazed at some of the answers, you know. But yeah, if you ask them anything about basketball in particular, not so much American football, but basketball or English soccer, you know, they can tell you. So, you know, I'm with you totally on that. And while you're on the subject of Joffre Archer, here's another name too that I'm seeing connected with your project. Craig Braffett, where does he fit in?
Oh, fantastic guy, man. Fantastic guy. I spoke to Craig, and for me, I really look up to Craig, and we might be able to understand why. Craig is from Black Rock. Craig is from Wavell Avenue, and I remember Belfield, and you know, I spent a lot of time in Belfield playing cricket and so on. And I mean, Craig used to come across to Belfield on his little bicycle and just riding around the field and stuff like that. You know, I remember his dad used to bring him up there. He never used to play cricket at that stage. He was just a youngster, but he used to come around and ride around his bicycle on the field and that kind of thing. He's such a manly young man. And, you know, I had a conversation with him, and, you know, Craig said to me straight, JP, I am on board with you. If you want me to come and coach these youngsters, I am going to coach. And in fact, we shared a discussion about the kiddie cricket program, the fact that the kiddie cricket program is no more. And Craig said, "You serious?" Like, Craig said, I'm going to have to bring that up. Like, kiddie cricket made me. This is what Craig Braffett said to me. Like, how we can't have a kiddie cricket program anymore? Like,
is this because of COVID or the other reasons?
Well, let me just say that when I was involved with it, I know for sure the contract was up.
Okay,
so yeah.
Okay, so even without COVID, it would have been an issue. Yeah, okay.
It seemed to be an issue, and I really enjoy working with the kiddie cricket program. We had to go to like 5 schools, and I used to go to 5 schools. So you can imagine the amount of talent I would have seen in 9 years, because then we were able to go around to different schools and coach guys, the basics and so on. I thought it was a really good program, and I was really hurt when it was ended. I hope that there's a succession plan somewhere being taught up by the West Indies Cricket Board. I am definitely hoping that, because between that and the grassroots program, produced so many young cricketers and so on. And at the end of the day, when a guy got to go, you get to go to cricket for free. So we used to take guys down to Kensington Oval, and they got to showcase their talents and skills in front of the tourists. And I mean, the tourists were jumping and shouting and screaming for them. This really made young people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
So, and they got to meet cricketers as well. And let me just say right now that if you speak to the majority of young men, right, they cannot name 5 West Indies cricketers right now. I'm telling you.
I don't know you, but JP, I'm looking here. I mean, we know Joe for Archer and Craig Braffett and so on, and I already mentioned that you would play quite a bit of cricket locally and for Barbados. But it's interesting to look at the things you've been involved in. For those who are not as familiar with you as Wayne and myself, former Barbados senior team player, we talked about that. Former youth team captain at under 15 and under 19 level. Former University of the West Indies player. Former CCC player. Former Games Committee chairperson at UWI. WICB level 2 coach, also qualified in child protection. Teacher at the primary level, bachelor in education. Trained in special education as well. 9 years coaching experience with the WICB Kiddie Cricket Youth Development Program. Wayne Holder, I could hardly think of better qualifications to be doing a task like this.
Well, because you and I know of JP's prowess, but JP, you touched a nerve, when you spoke about that Belfield experience, because I'm one of the people who believe that cricket in Barbados has lost contact with the community. And I also believe it has come about. The intention is very good, out of very good intentions, but we have developed a sort of elitist kind of a setup within the cricket fraternity. And when I say that, I'm talking about a situation where the Center of Excellence, brilliant idea, does a fantastic job, but it is very, very exclusive. And once that cohort is selected, there is nothing coming out of the cricketing authorities to cater for those persons who are not part of that Center of Excellence setup. My position is that rather than contract the program into Kensington, we need to expand to further communities where we have satellites of the Center of Excellence dispersed across the island to involve more young people. I think that is where the program is falling down, and that is where we are losing contact at the community level, particularly among the youth. I know you say that your program is not about setting up teams and the like, Noddy and the other guys look after that. I know you know of the efforts and the work of the likes of Franklin Stevenson, at the Franklin Stevenson Academy, and perhaps the youth program wonders, the guy Michael Lucas and Barry Ford at Wonders. I mean, you know all of these guys, but I'm asking you if you support the idea of the Center of Excellence concept rather than contracting all to Kensington let's expand it and have more satellites across the island.
Well, Wayne, let me just say that, you know, I applaud the BCAS, and I would not want to think, because that is one of my plans. So one of my plans, to be honest with you, know that I am obviously working during the COVID period. We have a lot of one-on-one, small group sessions, that kind of thing, which that is really good for now, for this time. I actually have a plan to actually go into the community. I actually am going to kind of name it after the late George Linton. He was a very good friend of mine. He was a coach that I really looked up to. And one thing about George Linton, he used to know every young cricketer in Barbados. You know why? Because George used to get in his car and drive all around Barbados looking for cricketers. And he would call me and say, P, I see this fella doing a good shepherd, or I see this fella this place, or whatever. I would never forget Georgie for that. And to me, I think we need to have more scouting going on. We need to develop scouts in Barbados. In fact, I have also, apart from working with Noddy and Patrick, I have also appointed him a scout, a talent scout here in my academy as well, that he will go around, you know, primary school and stuff like that, and looking for young talent that we can develop. I think that's something that is really, really needed in Barbados. And I will say this, it is not cricket, but I refer to it in terms of football. I don't know if you're familiar with what the tournament they used to call the police tournament. It was a football tournament, yeah. And for me, I'm very proud of where I came from. My dad is from Deacon's Farm. My mom is from Ashley Village. I grew up, you know,
Hill?
Correct. From
Sadiq and his brother?
Correct. So for me, the police tournament and the police posts that were set up in those, I can't remember if that was in the 90s or what, but I met a guy called Roger Brooms as well. And those guys came in, into the communities. I really cleaned up the communities. Really, I thought they did a good job. I remember they had Haynesville, Deacon's Farm, you had Gall Hill, Silver Hill, all these different areas. And they had a police tournament. And what used to happen on Saturday mornings is that the police bus used to come for you and pick up the different teams and take them up to Weymouth and so on. Used to play, used to play against each other. And to me, I saw that tournament grow and grow and grow and bring communities together. And I think that we need to have that kind of structure again. I don't really want to say too much, because obviously, as I'm working on a blueprint for certain things as well. But I think that if I say that, you guys will understand what I mean, that we need to go back to sports brings people together, sports merges communities and stuff like that. And I think that is the direction we need to go again as a country. We need to get into the communities and build the cricket and the sports from the communities. I think that is where the effort needs to go. So I think you can read enough from what I'm saying. There's so much talent that falls through in communities because there's nobody there to harness it. There's nobody there to say it.
I can speak to you on the behalf of the Ipswich Club in Eden Lodge. And right now, I am very much part of that. And we had embarked on a program of nurturing our own, to use the popular word, academy. You know, it was because of the COVID situation, we had to shelve our plans and put them on hold. But that is also part of the project that we have going on in that Eden Lodge community. And I was going to mention to you that when yourself and Noddy get your setup and you're looking for competition, you can remember us as to be part of whatever is happening, because we'd be very, very willing to get involved. But I believe in community involvement, and I also would go further. I don't know if you would want to go into the involvement of the Barbados Cricket Association at the community level. I think they're kind of reneged on their position as the authority, the managers of cricket in Barbados. There used to be a time there was something called the Barbados Cricket League that catered to that wider society. I am afraid to tell you that the Barbados Cricket League is holding on by a thread. You know, it is just about still there, but holding on. And I think that there's more need for that outreach for cricket to be able to really to re-emerge as the dominant and hold that position of dominance again.
No, I agree with you. And let me just say congratulations to you guys as well, because Stefan is a very good friend of mine. And congratulations from the end that, from the standpoint that the young man Shakir Parris, he is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he's actually on the 19th.
Oh, Chakpar.
Chakpar. And I would have coached him when he was at the Eden Lodge Primary School. And, you know, I saw the ability in this young man from that age. And, you know, Stefan and I had certain conversations. And I said to Stefan that this young man can go very far. And he just needs the guidance and the attention. I want to congratulate the Eden Lodge community and Ipswich as well for, you know, working with this young man who can go very, very far. I'm very proud of him. I'm very, very proud of him, because I pretty much know how the ghetto works. Let me just say that. And I am happy to see that he came on top, and I hope that he continues down the right path and he continues to make his community proud and his parents as well. Because sometimes, you know, it may look that way, but sometimes having your son or daughter do really well as a parent, it can change your fortunes, it can change your thinking. And for me, I am very happy. I didn't want to say congratulations to Stefan, especially because I know for sure Stefan is one to take him up and put him up and make sure they get certain things organized and everything. And that is the thing about communities. And I love that. There are always people in communities who are looking out for you. And that is what he needs. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job on their end. And I want to see you guys produce more players. I know there was a young man used to bowl off Spain. He was playing for Banks. What's his name now? The Banks community team. Antoine. You know,
Antoine. Young son. Even
a young son
at the moment.
Sure, yeah. Lots of talent. Lots of talent.
Yeah. Antoine, I try to remember his surname, but I know the guy is called St. Leonard's.
St. Leonard's, yeah. Very talented.
But that was the group that we've been working with. But as I said, because of this whole COVID situation, we had to shelve all those plans, you know, JP. But we got so much to talk about. But I would like to once again congratulate you and say I wish you and Patrick and everything that you're doing there in St. Philip. It is, no? We did not the location. This is in St. Philip. Is the location?
We're at Ocean City.
Third
Avenue, Ocean City.
All right, outside of the races here, but yeah. But okay, but yes. So like I was telling you, well done to you and Patrick, and we need to continue this conversation. You've got to come back and report to us. I mean, this is just the beginning. So I'm sure that Philip is going to encourage you to come back and report to Anything Cricket. Let's talk about the development sometime later on.
Not only report on the developments, but we will probably, you know, humbly ask, request his analytical skills as well as we look at the cricket that's being played all around. He's been there, done that. And it was very interesting to hear how he perceives the various issues in West Indies cricket. We're not going to talk about the negative things right now. That's another part of the show, if you will. But hopefully you will agree to come back and use your analytical skills as a panelist on some future occasion.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. JP, all the best with the cricket school. And Wayne, back to you.
Well, yes, I mean, just again to thank JP and continue to wish him success. And we look forward to Ipswich versus the Jason Parris Cricket Academy whenever.
I'm gonna give Patrick the nod on that, so I'm gonna give that the JA Academy.
The JA Academy. Okay,
Academy.
We'll be there.
Yeah, man. It'll be good fun.
Great going, man, and good work. Continue.
Thanks again.
We will be back on Anything Cricket. That's all.
Yeah.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
Yes, here's another episode of What's Wrong with Martin. I sat quietly and bemused and befuddled. Bajan parlance would say, kerfuffled. How does a person that I call Sneaky Smith, you can decide who the individual is, get to be captain of an Australian team again? I checked my notes and it said in 2018, during a test match in South Africa, against South Africa, the then captain of the Australian test team, along with somebody called Warner and somebody called Bancroft, were brought before the ICC for ball tampering. It's known universally as the sandpaper incident. Coming out of this, the manager resigned. Cricket Australia agreed with the length of the ban by the ICC. And one of the compelling statements with shall never more be part of being a captain of any Australian team or involved in the management of any Australian team. And lo and behold, the second test, and I don't care how many injuries are in the squad, if your word is to be taken and you say that Sneaky Smith is never to be captain of an Australian team again, kindly explain to me, which clearly is wrong, how the individual whose name I have not called gets to be captain of an Australian team again. Even that ban did not stop him from plying his trade during the period of ban from ICC events of playing franchise cricket. Naughty boy. I guess Santa Claus didn't check his list to see who was naughty or nice. Or if he did, he didn't check it twice. Sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander, different strokes for different folks, who knows? But I think there's something found in Denmark or whatever part of the Anzac region where you say one thing, but do another. And here we go. That's what's wrong with Martin.
Have your most precious moments captured in a flash. Call Flash Drive Media, specialists in photography, videography, and streaming services, and much more. Call Flash Drive Media.
The directors, manager, and staff of IGS Insurance Brokers wish to extend their best wishes to the production team, all the analysts, guests, and the supporters of Anything Cricket Let's Talk. We also want to say thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be on board. At this time of year, the world is celebrating the greatest gift ever given to mankind. That is the birth of Jesus. Let us truly accept this gift, not only at Christmas time, but throughout the year. This would result in changed lives, the spread of love, kindness, compassion, peace, all that is good. That's the reason for the birth of Jesus, to offer us hope for a better life. His life exemplified all good qualities. As we celebrate this season, let us ask him into our lives. Let us ask him to soften our hearts and open our lives to share love to all those around us. Spread love. Be safe. Best wishes from your general insurance broker for life, IGS Insurance Brokers, Say yes to IGS.
My name is Brian. I'm a great fan and just like to wish each and every single one of you, the producer, the co-host, every single person who makes this show a fabulous show, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we can't forget the viewers on YouTube and any social media platform that you go on. We wish you all a happy Christmas and a prosperous and a blessed new year. And next year, it'll be better and even bigger than 2021. Have a blessed Christmas. Peace and love.
Here's the wishing all of our fans, viewers, and my fellow co-hosts a safe and happy holidays. And I wish you all a prosperous 2022.
Here is wishing the blessings of joy and peace in the lives of all of the Anything Cricket Let's Talk family in this holiday season. To our loyal viewers, our expert analysts, and our dedicated presenters, here is wishing a very, very Merry Christmas and all the best for 2022.
Hey viewers, at this time of the year, I would like to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2022. I would also like to encourage you to continue to support the show and also back the West Indies. And we'll be looking forward to your continuous engagement with this show. So once again, Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones, and continue to stay safe.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket Let's Talk. Well, that's going to be in the new year because this is our final show for 2021. So, on behalf of the entire team at Anything Cricket Let's Talk, here is wishing you and yours all the best for Christmas and the new year. We will still be posting short, what we call extras for you from time to time, but our next full show will certainly be in the new year. So, Merry Christmas and all the best in 2022.